past couple of years, we have unfortunately seen a lot of instances of censorship within the video game industry. The AAA developers and publishers can put out whatever type of content they want, but when it comes time for indie developers to have a little bit of creative freedom, no, 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 the Valves and Sony say that content is pushing the limits. And unfortunately, now we are seeing this happening yet again with Steam because apparently women's bodies are inappropriate. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, it is heartbreaking to see situations like this where creatives are told you're not allowed to make the content you want, and there are some developers out there who are told by, let's say, for example, Steam, oh no, this content can't go on our platform, and they will censor it. Now, luckily, there are a lot of devs out there who will stand their ground and say, okay, I'll put it somewhere else and I'll release this content somewhere else, but I do understand how hard it is to be an independent developer nowadays, and this situation perfectly summarizes that because apparently now women's bodies are pushing the limits. So, Aftermath Red Pine Lake is a game that is going to be coming out. I hadn't heard of it before, but it is an 80s slasher style asymmetrical survival horror where if the killer gets you, you don't stay dead. You come back as an undead minion. They do have a Kickstarter page. They do have their own personal social medias, and I will link them all down below, but I hadn't heard of this before. It looks really cool, looks really interesting. It says face a relentless slasher in a blood-soaked 1980s summer camp. Hunters survive in this asymmetrical multiplayer thriller. Really cool, but unfortunately now, if you want to support this game, it's going to be that much harder because apparently it is too inappropriate because of women. So a couple of days ago, they had posted an announcement. This image is the reason our Steam page has not been approved. This image is now classed as too mature according to Steam, so now we cannot have the page ready in time for the event and would need to censor our marketing, screenshots, etc. This is what censorship is coming to in the games industry, and we have to ask now, is it worth it for them to move the goalpost down the line? We could have it all remade and hope they accept it, but where will it stop? We would need to redo the networking too if we move platform. But do you really want a censored game? We don't. Anyone know of a platform they recommend or publishers that can handle mature content? Let us know. And yeah, all because of a woman's body, a singular butt was pushing the limits, which is insane because on Steam, for example, you have hentai content. And I think that all mature themes are basically okay as long as they are marked as mature and they are not, breaking any laws, obviously, but when it comes time for an independent dev to want to release their content that happens to feature attractive women, that is where Valve says, you know what? Suddenly we can't allow this content. And I know that over the past couple of months, we have been talking a lot about Visa and MasterCard really telling them, we are going to blacklist you and we are going to rip away your options from you if you do not comply with our guidelines, which are basically you can't have any adult content. And I know that it is hard at this point to judge whether or not this is because of Steam, if this is because of payment processors, but keep in mind, years before the payment processor situation really blew up, they were censoring content on their platform. It wasn't like this just wasn't a problem before then. I mean, this is a situation I've talked about many, many times. Full Metal Demon Muramasa streamer-friendly version denied on Steam, but it's actually available on GOG, and they said it is considered by many a pinnacle of the visual novel genre. It dives into challenging and uncomfortable themes of war, sexual violence, racism, oppression, terrorism, and other atrocities for the sake of artful storytelling. Steam has never had a policy against bad things happening in video games. In fact, Muramasa is unequivocal in its condemnation of these elements. Out of the darkness of its story emerges a statement on what it means to be a hero, to be human, to be family, to be friends, and in many ways, what it means to be. Our case is unfortunately not unique to the industry. An increasing number of visual novel games are getting unjustly banned from Steam with no recourse. This creates an environment where publishers don't release games like Muramasa because the risk is too high, with Steam's heavy-handed hold on the PC market stifling the medium and forcing publishers to adopt self-censorship to survive, and this is so sad. And over the years, I've made thousands of videos on censorship and hundreds alone on Steam, and it has been especially bad for Japanese developers and publishers, but that doesn't mean that Western developers haven't faced a problem, and basically any type of content can be targeted. It's not even just extremely graphic content and violence and gore and massive sex scenes. And this is what happens when you do not have clear and consistent guidelines for employees. One day, an employee can say, oh, tentacles and hentai, that's okay content to have on the platform. And the next day, an employee might say, oh, this is not okay and we can't allow this at all whatsoever. And they need better guidelines. And I know that a lot of people are going to say maybe this is because of payment processors, and sure, it could be, but we don't have any sort of confirmation on that being the case, and I'm worried that Valve might even use that as an excuse now to remove more content. But Aftermath, Red Pine Lake had posted over on their X today a message from the Steam team. If you look long enough, I'm sure you'll find plenty of other partners who are breaking our rules and guidelines. Focusing the topic of the image on a woman's behind is indeed sexual in nature, regardless of what she's wearing. Your graphical assets can be viewed by everyone on the platform and should be appropriate for the store. So now, apparently, a butt is way too graphic, way too visual, even though there are plenty of games that highlight women in bikinis, and those don't have an issue. Savvy had said, it sure didn't take long to go from think of the kids to women are just sexual. This might make devs think, well, might as not add any women in my game. Sounds ridiculous, but they are a business and they do want to make money. It's a risk assessment. We'll try to speed things up in developing a censorship-resistant and permissionless store/launcher. I mean, as a woman myself, I don't just think a woman's butt is instantly seen as a sexual object. I think it's pretty weird if you do actually. And I know I had made a post on this topic and I said, so now women's butts are simply too graphic. Next, is it going to be ankles, shoulders, wrists? This is why I always say censorship is a slippery slope. We've now gotten to the point where a woman's body is more offensive than the games with gore and violence, which it's just so sad to see this happening time and time and time and time again. This has to be the intention from the get-go, since it's actual Puritans driving this phenomenon like Collective Shout. They want all 18-plus games gone, even the mainstream ones. We already told this to everyone who cheered the removal of the niche fetish games in the first censorship batch. This is where they want us to go? Yeah, probably. Oh no, I saw her ankles! Funny you should say that. My grandpa, rest his soul, once told me ankles back in the old days were the thighs of today. This image isn't even graphic. The game looks fun. Crazy Steam is going this direction when they have straight up porn games on the platform, and it's not consistent the way that they run their platform, and I wish that it was. I wish that it was easier for developers to know what sort of content is acceptable, what sort of content is bannable, and now if you make something, you just have to wonder, am I even going to be able to publish this game on the largest PC storefront in the world? So I do hope that Steam backtracks. I do hope that they clarify. I, of course, every single time I talk about Steam censorship, say I hope they come up with clearer and more consistent guidelines for developers, but it seems that's too tough for them to do. So I will link this game's pages down below in case you do want to go and support them and follow their journey. But for now, that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.